And I won't take much time because I really just wanted the opportunity, if there are any questions, be here to answer those. A little bit about myself. I'm Evan Sanders. My company is Community Development Partners. We're an administrative management firm. I cover the state of Tennessee. I've had the company since April 1st, 1994, so I've had it, getting on right at almost 28 years now. Been in this business for longer than that, so I've been in the business about 30 years. And our area of expertise is working with city and county governments on various federal and state funded programs. Not only securing those funds, but as important, if not more important, helping the communities navigate the implementation process with the funding. Various fundings involved from a regulatory compliance standpoint. That's actually what we get paid to do. We come in a lot of times and write applications on a no-cost basis, whether it be for the Community Development Block Grant CDBG program, ARC program, Local Park and Recreation program, TDOT programs. We secure funds actually at no cost, but then we come in and we manage the projects and get everybody through compliance as needed. Worked in the area a ton of years, done projects a little bit here and there with the county, a lot of municipalities around. So I've got a long history of working in this area, myself and my company do. And we've been in the middle of a project here with the county on a CDBG project. And of course, as everybody I know is aware, within the last year, the federal funding that is now coming down, the American Rescue Plan Act funding, ARPA for short, is funding that every single community, city, county, and state in the country is getting. Obviously, federal funds, federal obligations from a regulatory compliance standpoint and management standpoint. And so we are helping a number of communities, city and counties that we already currently work with. I'm not out running around to the counties that we don't work with, but those that we are working with, pretty much most all of them are using us to come in and help them to navigate that process of the funding, managing the funds, making sure that all the compliance items are in order, whether it be reporting, financial management, procurement, bidding of services, so on and so forth. Obviously, the federal oversight on this is what each community has to be mindful of in the implementation of these things, so that at the end of the day, when the Department of Treasury comes around auditing, you're able to provide the documentation that they're going to expect and require to make sure that funding is in good order. So, it's just another piece of what our company is going to be handling over the next few years for those communities that we currently are doing some work with. So I've had some discussions with the mayor and Eric and Sarah, just kind of, of what we can do to help out. We'd certainly be happy to assist, help the county get through this. It's a lot. You are getting quite a significant amount of money. There's a little over $11 million of just what we call direct allocation. And then beyond that, there's the opportunity for close to $6.4 million for TDEC, Environment and Conservation, water, wastewater money. That's the difference in the two. You all may know, but the difference in the two pots of money is one pot of money is already some of it deposited into the account. 50% the direct allocation, the other 50% later on this year. The TDEC money is not the same. It's something you've got to apply for. You've got to have a planning process involved, working with local utilities and identifying projects. There's a process each of them have to go through. And at the end of the day, there ultimately is an application that if we were involved, we would be basically writing with you all on your behalf to submit to TDEC requesting the funding. We did learn a couple of weeks ago, TDEC came out with their grant manual, and those applications, while they'll be open for being able to submit probably sometime in April, at the earliest, they will be accepting them all the way through November 1st. So there's time to really plan and strategically plan things out correctly to the best benefit of the county. So that's just really it in a very brief nutshell of kind of what we do. And so I wanted to kind of just come and discuss that a little bit, introduce myself for those that don't know me. I know obviously several do, but wanted to kind of get our information out there, what we would be certainly willing and eager to help you all out with on these funds. So that's it in a nutshell, just to kind of be brief and not take up a whole lot of your time. But I do want to, talk about it, answer questions. That's really why I'm here.
Where are we at on this process, sir? I know that y'all put out, had to put out like applications for that, and from my understanding, Evan was the only one that replied to that. So, does Mayor, has he said anything about what his intentions? I mean, is this something?
Not to me, no.
So, is this something that we need to have a resolution for the commission?
We would sign a contract with Evan, is my understanding.
In the end, the next, as part of the procurement qualifications, which is a very important part of this, that's the first federal box that needs to be checked to make sure you all are in good standing. So you all did solicit, we responded, and so the next order in the process would be a selection based on qualification statements. And then we can kind of begin to look at discussions of contracts. We've got a standard contract that ultimately we have. We need to kind of begin to have some discussions on, kind of the directions you all are going with these funds. Kind of me getting a feel for what the uses are. I mean, there's a lot of planning involved. And the amount of work that myself and my company would have may be dependent on what you all do with the funds. If you take, if you're 11 million so of direct allocation and you utilize it into one or two larger scale projects, well, that's one thing. If all of a sudden those 11 million is broken into about 25 or 30 projects, well, that's going to take a little more involvement of what we do. So it's a kind of an open dialogue with you all on kind of what we're looking at and what your interests are. How we can help, guide through that some. That's part of what we do.
You mentioned the TDEC on the grants.
Yes.
Are those going to be matching? Has that
So
number,
yes.
did that number come out yet?
The number has come out. The original number has been reduced. The match amount within the county is 15% match. Now it can be reduced another 5% to just 10% match by doing collaborative projects.
Regionalization type projects?
Yeah, well, projects where you've got two entities collaborating together on a particular project, and that collaboration really needs to be financial, the 15 or the 10%, the matching collaborative part. So there are ways of reducing the match a little bit. But yes, there is a match.
Will that money that we already get, will we be able to use that money to match, or has it got to come from a different source?
It can come from your local allocation. Matter of fact, that's why, quite honestly, that is why they put the match in there to begin with, was to incentivize communities to utilize their direct allocation of money on water, wastewater. So they put the match in there. That was before there were some changes in the rule, the final rule that was made, which everybody probably has heard about, on being able to utilize revenue loss as a means of eligibility. And because in the initial interim rule, the eligibility requirements were very restrictive. There wasn't a lot of things you could do. And water, wastewater, in the comptroller's eyes, I understand, was, one of the clear cut pathways towards eligibility.
Anybody else got any questions?
Well, I have one more on the time frame on the TDEC. Well, is that going to coincide with the carriage money? I know we have to have it, spent by a certain time.
Yeah, another good question. So it is the same from the time frame. The direct allocation, county allocation, the requirements there, you have to have funds allocated by December 31st, 2024. You have to have them spent by December 31st, 2026. TDEC, exact same. They're under the same umbrella as far as the time is concerned.
And can we put in for more than one grant? I mean, does everything have to come in one? I know there's been talk on water.
Yes.
Over.
So with the TDEC application, each entity is only allowed one application. So the county gets one shot at a project, Churchill gets one shot at an application, so Rogersville, so on and so forth. Under that application umbrella, there can be multiple projects.
Oh, okay.
So you
That
could
answers my
have,
question.
5, 6, 7, 8 projects. And the way I kind of visualize it is we do a lot of work on CDBG block grant projects for water, wastewater. You all, $6.4 million, all of a sudden it's going to be like, there's 5, 6, 7, 8 CDBG projects going at one time within the county. That's a lot. Obviously that's our role, is coming in to help navigate and implement all those funds according to the requirements. And one of the things I point out on these funds, it is a considerable difference from normally when you get something, a federal grant like a CDBG, EDA, SRF, ARC. Those funds, each and everything we do on, for instance, a CDBG project, we gather the information, the office does, we get it compiled. Say we bid a project out, it gets bid, we compile the bid information, we send it to the CDBG agency, they review it, check off on it, send an approval letter, boom, done. There's kind of those checks and balances. ARPA money, there's nothing like that. You all have to be responsible internally for making sure that, hey, if Treasury comes and said, okay, we want to see your bidding procurement information on such and such project, you're able to provide it. So it's a considerable difference on how we manage a CDBG project or something else, because there's that funding agency review that there's not going to be in this particular instance on your direct allocation of funds. And that's obviously, we're coming in to manage these like a normal federal project. We're gonna take things to the degree of managing these just normal federal guidelines.
So our next step would be the mayor, you and the mayor working out a contract, is that right?
Well, I guess an authorization at some point, a selection through the commission. I mean, it's up to you all, however it needs to happen, I guess. We're open to anything. I'm not, gotta get it done. It's whatever you want.
I think it's important that we get it done so we
Yeah.
can get in the process of applying for these grants.
Yeah.
Now, we're gonna be behind the 8 ball if we wait, very many more months.
Early bird gets the worm type deal, what you said. We need to get on, get our grant ready, and, in the areas that we need to look at and people want to apply for. And that's the reason I ask you if you can apply one grant or be there more than one time. And so that's good to know. It's all got to be done at the same time.
That has to be done, so you basically are working collectively as a county utilities to plan and organize an application that's really to everybody's benefit, short and long. But that takes a lot of planning. I mean, you imagine, you got everybody you want to try and work. Now, it gets more involved with that, with the TDEC process and what's required. But that's all the stuff that we've been keeping up with and working on.
I have a question. How much liability, if we had a contract with you, do you guys take if there's a project that they say this didn't qualify?
And that's a great question, because we're not here to basically remove liability, but we're here to guide through. And the state of Tennessee's doing that as well. You know, they went from an eligibility standpoint. The state is providing what they're calling a spending plan process where communities and counties can submit their interested projects for the state review. The state will review them and either say, you know, hey, this looks in line, or maybe these throw up some red flags. But the state is very clear on their review that it's non-binding. In other words, the ultimate responsible party is the community, in this case, Hawkins County. And, you know, our approach is there to layer on those levels. I think the spending plan is certainly a very useful tool to be able to have another layer showing that, hey, the county has taken steps to make sure what you all are doing with the funding is within the eligibility criteria. So that's our role, is to try and help you all through that process. But yeah, from a liability standpoint, we're not going to say, hey, you can do this, or no, you can't do this, but we're going to be there to kind of talk with you on, hey, these are the things you might want to consider. Because I've seen situations, especially before they came out with the more relaxed version of the final rule. I had communities saying, hey, we're going to do this and that, and I'd be real open and say, I don't think that's a good idea to do this and that. I mean, I was real frank, and so that's how our relationship would work on it. They have opened things up a lot with the revenue loss allowance that can be taken. Then it gets more into keeping up with the tracking of what you're doing.
Is this cost going to be based on number of projects or?
Mostly, yeah. You know, we have we're kind of in a range on these, but there is an impact on that openly. If y'all are going to put all $11 million of direct allocation into one, say, emergency service, but whatever, that's one project to, although a big one, to manage through the process. But then if all of a sudden that one project is going to be 25, that's a lot more work on our part openly. And so I want to be open about that. And what I will say from our contractual standpoint, we'll be very open and have it on the table. Want to make sure everybody's comfortable with it. It's a lot of work. You figure this is going on for 5 years. It's a lot of work and commitment on my company's behalf. But again, as I mentioned earlier, I've been at this, I've had my company 28 years now, and I'm not in it for a one project deal. I'm always been in business for the long term. I want to make sure that if I do something with Hawkins County, I'm doing something else with Hawkins County. I want to keep you all happy and wanting to use our services, and that's always how it's operated.
Anybody else got any questions? Thank you for coming.
I appreciate the time, appreciate the opportunity, and obviously, if any questions.
Can I ask one question? This is probably more for the budget committee. Are you all interested in using Mr. Sanders for the TDEC grants, or for the $11 million, or for both?
It'll be for all.
For all of it, okay.
Because there's a lot of paperwork that Eric's done said he didn't have time to do.
Okay.
So.
And Mr. Sanders, I'm sorry, did I understand you say that the TDEC 6.4 million, that's
Roughly.
above and beyond the $11 million?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. And that is the important part of that is that's an opportunity. The 11 million, that's already coming to the county. The 6.4-ish will have to be applied for.
Okay.
So it's an opportunity.
I'll make this statement. I've known Evan for several years. He worked for us when I was at Main Station. And I'll say this about his track record. He never applied for any grants that he didn't get for the city of Main Station. Every grant that you applied for the city of Main Station, we got, even though the county of Granger turned one of them back in.
Well, we won't know.
Well, I know Churchill's always bragged on this.
But I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate y'all's time. Any questions come up, reach out. That's why we're there.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
Thank you, Evan.
Mm-hmm.
Next item on the agenda is the ad hoc committee, and I don't think, we don't have anybody here from the ad hoc committee today, but this is, where we're at with the ad hoc committee. They've been gathering information for a year now. And they've done a lot of good work. And I think it's time that we, as a budget committee, sit down with those individuals and let's look at, and if we hire Evan needs to be included, but we need to look and sort of, and I think Mark said that they had done already, maybe started prioritizing those requests, but we need to sit down as a budget committee and ad hoc committee and any other county commissioner that wants to sit down and let's look at all these requests. That doesn't mean that we can't take more, you know, if there's some other out there that need to be looked at. But, you know, it's time now, we need to start making some decisions about what we want to do.
I have a question about the ad hoc committee. Since we are taking the $10 million, that leaves a 1.6 left. Is the ad hoc committee only going to be addressing what comes out of that 1.6, not the 10?
This is what I think needs to happen, Keith, and like I say, the ad hoc committee has worked diligently for a year. They was appointed last March. And they've collected a lot of good information. And I think it's time that we take that information that they've collected and sit down with the budget committee and anyone from that ad hoc committee that wants to sit down and let's look at those and get those prioritized. And there's some of them, and I don't know, I was hoping Mark would be here today because we could ask him these questions. I don't have the answer to these questions, but I was hoping that there's some of these requests that they've done kicked out.
Well, see, the reason I'm asking is the $10 million are going into the general fund. In a special line item of general fund, and I didn't know if there's.
That is why, I mean.
I hate Eric's not here too.
The complete 11.6 million that we're getting, it's gonna be up to county commission to determine how we spend this money. It's not gonna be no committee decide, and that's why I think it's important that we, as a budget committee, and especially all the commissioners that was on the ad hoc committee, and any other commissioner that wants to sit down, and let's look at these projects and get ourselves educated about all these requests that's been made. And, you know, we can look at them and get some advice from Evan, you know, about, and I'm sure, there's other money still out there in there, Evan, that we can apply for.
Yes, I mean.
And if we can piggyback on some of that, then Evan's the man, he'll know. And there'll be additional monies there, maybe that we can get besides what we've already got. And what we're gonna be applying.
This $6.4 million that you're talking about, that's already in the budget. It's nothing doing with the next upcoming budget.
That's correct. That's the 6 point, it's just under 6.4 if I remember correctly. It's like 6.365 or something like that. But that is, that money coming from the state, TDEC, that's actually the state's ARPA money. So each city got money, each county and the state got, you know, over $3 billion of ARPA money, and the state is taking a little over $1 billion of that and putting it towards water wastewater.
Okay.
And so they have given an allocation amount that every county and every municipality that owns and operates a water wastewater system or stormwater system has an opportunity for a set amount of money. And then if a community doesn't go after or doesn't use all that money, they're taking any money that's rolled out of that and they're putting it into a pool for a competitive grant program next year for water wastewater.
Well, this is what I would like for us to do. At our next scheduled budget committee, Sarah, I would like for that meeting to be set for 2 o'clock, if it's all right with everybody in here. And let's put on the first part of the agenda, looking at all these applications.
Along with ad hoc committee.
And well, officially, I'm gonna release the ad hoc committee officially, but along with everybody from the ad hoc committee that wants to be here and would like to be, because they've got a lot of information. I mean, Woody Boyd, he's collected a lot of information, and he's still important, but I would like to invite, and of course, they're already invited, but, each and every county commissioner that could attend that meeting, it'd be good if they would attend. And let's start looking
Could
at
that be the courthouse instead of here? Because
maybe,
Probably.
maybe,
I would
First time meeting.
Yes.
maybe, it might get a pretty good sized crowd in here.
Well, I know they.
Evan, could you be back at that
Get it
time?
all the time, I need to check the date,
Okay,
everything.
Sarah can tell you the date, it'd be
I'm
the
open,
Let me
I'll,
look at my calendar.
third Monday at 2:00, whatever the third Monday falls on, but,
They've gathered a lot of information that we don't even know about.
and that's why we need to start looking at it.
I mean, all we know is hearsay, what somebody told us a little bit here and there, so.
So,
That would be April the 18th. Do you think 2 o'clock would be early enough?
I would think so, because the only other thing we would really have to talk about at that meeting, I think, basically would be the resolutions.
I've sent Stephanie to check. I think Mr. DeWitt has asked that we schedule another ad hoc committee, April 7th at 6.
When,
April 7th at 6. Has that notice went out? The notice has not went out yet.
let's just, I need to talk to me, I was hoping that Mark would be here today where we could discuss all this, but no, I think, we can meet and meet and meet, but there's gotta be a cutoff time sometime or another, and not saying, like I say, not saying that we can't look at other projects, but if you let people drag on, we're gonna be going, not, missing their cutoff on some of these other programs. And we need to know where this money's gonna be spent. And I think that's very important, that we need to know.
So don't
decide.
notice this meeting.
No, and just tell them that they need to meet at our budget, with the budget committee.
Chairman Brewer, can I ask for a point of clarification?
I'm sorry, Jason.
Can I ask for a point of clarification, please?
Yes.
You said you were gonna release the committee, so the committee's work is done?
As an ad hoc committee, yes.
Okay.
But, when I say that, I still would like for them to meet those people that was on that committee, come and meet with the budget committee, because they're the ones that knows what's going on.
So,
We've not been told.
so to that point, Mr. Chairman, I've been to some of those ad hoc committee meetings, so I've had an opportunity to hear a lot of what was going on, just by nature of attending. The only point that I might make is that, given all of the applications that have been made and everything that's been put together, I don't know that all of the funds have been accounted for yet, even with the applications that have been made. That might be, so like all of the money has not been accounted for from the ARPA money due to applications that have been done by nonprofits. You understand what I'm saying? So I guess the point that I'm making is all those nonprofits that applied for those funds on the front end through the ad hoc committee had to go through a pretty rigorous process by filling out the application, showing up to the meetings, kind of being under scrutiny of the committee. So any funds that are available after the ad hoc committee is discharged, those nonprofits will not have to go through the same scrutiny. They'll only have to answer to the budget committee. Is that correct?
No, but that's what I'm saying. We're gonna look at those applications, Jason.
So,
The ad hoc committee doesn't have the authority even, to say, so-and-so, you're gonna get this money. It's all, and the budget committee don't have that authority.
Right.
We don't have that authority.
I guess
It's all gonna have to go before the county commission.
right.
Full committee.
So they're recommending committee, and I understand that. I guess the point that I'm making is you've got a lot of organizations that jump through every hoop that the ad hoc committee put in front of them so that they can, acquire that money. And once the ad hoc committee's gone, they're probably going to think, well, we should have just waited till the committee was discharged and we could apply after the fact.
No, we're taking that information and prioritizing it.
Okay.
That's my point right now, is we need to look at that information, and that's, again, let me make it clear, we're not saying that a good project come by, for instance, what you had last month, and I don't know where that's at.
Not yet, but we're getting.
But, you know, that's not saying that we don't need to look at that.
Right.
You know, in other words, we can't just say, well, you're too late, you're not gonna get considered.
Let me add this, from what I think Jason's saying, if a new person comes in and applies for something, they need to put in the same application, they need to have the same scrutiny, the
Exactly.
same as everybody else.
If that's
That
what
will be
you're
up to
saying,
the budget
Jason,
committee to
yes.
do.
Yes, so,
Yes.
and instead of the ad hoc committee putting them through that, the budget committee will take that role from this point forward. is
Yes.
what I understand.
Yes.
So, whose responsibility on the budget committee will it be to receive the applications and review those? Do you have that worked out yet?
No. No. I was hoping, like I said, I was hoping that.
One day at a time, right?
Yeah, but at our next meeting, when we can sit and look and prioritize this, and, you know, like I say, that's not saying that something else couldn't be presented later, but we don't even know how much money that we're looking at, that we're looking at handing out right now. I mean, we got to know that part. I mean, we can promise and promise, well, what if we promise too much? You know, we don't even know as a budget committee. I mean, and maybe it's my fault. I mean, I'll say, well, it's Rick Brewer's fault. I should know more. But every time that the ad hoc committee's met, I've had a previous meeting with the utility district, so. But anyway, any other questions about this or whatever?